All right, Nick, let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. In this first year under head coach Jim Harbaugh, I think the Chargers have done an admirable job of turning this ship around in the right direction, showing that he is the right hire. But if they want to get any further, I think there's going to be some tough moves going ahead as far as turning this team around, making some cuts that maybe would be, a tough decision for other teams. But it seems like Jim Harbaugh already has some decisions made in his head. Before we get to that, I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. And Nick, as I alluded to, some tough cuts ahead for the Chargers, but it seems like Jim Harbaugh is tipping his hand at who exactly he is going to keep and who he might be letting walk. Let's get into the article and we can talk about it more on the other side. This is from Bolt Beat. The Chargers could cut or trade Joey Bosa to free up $25.36 million in cap space for 2025. If Bosa is on the team, he will carry a $36.4 million cap hit. As expensive as that is, Bosa is still a big name in the league and seemingly gives the Chargers a tough decision to make about his future. The decision may not be actually that tough, though, and the Chargers may have tipped their hand slightly. Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh raved about free agent edge rusher Khalil Mack on Wednesday and made it clear they want to do everything possible to bring him back next season. Harbaugh and Ortiz being so dedicated to Mack, bringing back Mack, could foreshadow Bosa's eventual fate with Chargers. I think this is really telling, and I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about as far as if it's worth to keep Bosa or not. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but before we get to you, Chargers fans, in the comment section below, I'll kind of narrow it down a little bit here. If you had to keep one guy or the other, because that would probably be the situation you're looking at, Bosa or Mack, which edge rusher are you leaning towards? Would you rather keep Joey Bosa? Would you rather keep Khalil Mack on this team? And why? Why do you think that? Let us know in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this potential move by the Chargers?
So I think the Chargers are planning to trade Bosa. And I think it would be a massive trade, and it would be a smart trade because there's a really interesting dynamic that happens a lot in the NFL. You have big name guys, stars or former stars, that production starts to dip a little bit, but people still view them as a superstar or at least a really good player, and you can kind of trade them. And some team will generally overpay, usually a rebuilding team. You look at a team like the New England Patriots, for example, is a great example of this, that need a star, need a big name, and they're willing to overpay to get somebody in the building that gets the fans, gets the team motivated and juiced, right? A team that's just really lacking talent. And I think Joey Bosa fits that for the Chargers. And I think Ortiz is a very smart guy, obviously, if it's time for the Baltimore Ravens. He understands that because if you look at Bosa's data, and the folks at overthecap.com, they do a great job of this. What they do is they look at a player's position, his age, his production, and they put a valuation on him. They say, okay, how much, based on the data, should he cost against the salary cap, all things being equal? So you talked about the report in 2025, Joey Bosa's cap hit for the Chargers is set to be 36.4 million bucks roughly. His valuation, according to overthecap.com, is 3.3 million bucks. You're talking about a roughly 12x overvaluation, 12 times more against the cap than he's worth. Again, that's according to overthecap.com. That's not a perfect methodology, but it's an indication that Bosa's production has dipped versus what he's counting against the salary cap. So this is an opportunity for the Chargers to flip Bosa for something, right? Now, look, you're not going to get a number one overall pick. You're not probably going to get a second round pick. But if you talk about a guy that has this much big name appeal, right? Everyone knows Joey Bosa. He's had a great reputation in the National Football League. If you're able to flip him for something in return as you look to try and push this roster to the next level, I think that's the move the Chargers are going to make because the Chargers are in a weird position. They're a good, solid, fundamentally sound team, but they actually have a lot of holes and a lot of areas to improve. The interior offensive line, not great. They need a bunch of playmakers. They don't need a bunch of superstar receivers and tight ends, but they need a bunch of solid, dependable guys. I think depth in the defensive backfield. I think depth at linebacker is a real problem, and they're probably going to have to go out and get another edge rusher to replace Bosa as well. So while they're a good football team, they've got a lot of holes that they need to improve on to take the next step at 2025. The best way to help with that is to trade Bosa and get some kind of capital in return. I think that's what Ortiz and Harbaugh are planning, and I think it would be a fantastic move.
Yeah, Nick, and what you talk about the Chargers needing some playmakers, I think that's absolutely true. And that cap space would be a big help because as much as Harbaugh tried with Clinton Johnson. That guy's definitely not the answer for the number one receiver on this team. Really need to do something there. But it's like you said, Bosa moving off of him, I don't think it's that tough of a move. If you look at what he's doing versus what he's being paid, it's actually really easy. And I'll be, critical of Joey Bosa here, but first, the first 6 years of his career, Joey Bosa was fantastic. He was a really great player, but the last 3 years there's only one thing you can count on Joey Bosa in the last 3 years, and that's that he was going to get injured and really leave this team in a few tough spots. His plays actually dipped in this past season, and despite being injured as well, was by far the worst performance of his career with a 61 PFF grade overall, like almost 20 points lower than any other season that he has performed in his rankings. So I think Joey Bosa as a player is very solid early on in his career. Like you said, is a big name, but you can start to see the dip. So moving off Bosa now, whether they're able to trade him or whether they even just have to cut him to get out from under that, like I said, $25 million in savings, no matter what they have to do. But I think they'll probably be able to make a trade with Bosa. I think they need to move off of him. And I think if you look at Khalil Mack, he's fantastic still. You look at the last 2 seasons for Khalil Mack, a 90.2 PFF grade this season, a 91.8 grade for per PFF last season. Khalil Mack still playing at a Hall of Fame level. This dude is fantastic. He's all pro. This guy is one of the best edge rushers, edge defenders in all of football. Actually ranked 5th out of all edge defenders. So Khalil Mack is the easy choice here. If you said Bosa, if you say Mack, based on the data alone and what they're doing versus what they're getting paid, Khalil Mack's the easy answer here. So I really like the Chargers are leaning that direction. They're not really kind of, trying to give that name recognition any clout. They're looking at performance, seeing who's performed, and seeing who makes the dollars and cents make sense, and that is not Joey Bosa. So Chargers moving off of Bosa, I think, is a really smart move.